Good morning. I'm Joel Miller. I'm the interim minister here at the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. So pleased to welcome you here this morning on a day that started out incredibly sunny. And somebody just sent me a text worried that snow squalls are supposed to fly in all of a sudden later this afternoon. The fellowship's an interesting place to be with how weather works. It's right on the border between sort of a continental weather environment and the coastal weather environment. Never quite know at the fellowship what the weather might be. It's kind of like being a Unitarian Universalist, actually. Never quite sure what we might encounter as we create community together, as we care for each other and the world around us. And so we turn to one another. We create community. We're thinking a lot about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. this morning. Tomorrow is a holiday that celebrates the day of his birth and celebrates the amazing ministry he had in the United States, working for civil rights, voting rights, economic justice. Dr. King was invited to speak to the gathered congregations of Unitarian Universalists in 1966. Every year, Unitarian Universalists send representatives or delegates to a meeting we call the General Assembly. It happens every year in June. Our congregations get together, we learn, we make continental-wide decisions about how we want to be together. When Dr. King came to speak to us, he opened this speech he was giving by saying, "It is so nice to be speaking with friends." And that's important for you to know, because Dr. King and Coretta Scott King is his wife and partner in the justice work he did. Had a lot of important friends, and many of those friends were Unitarian Universalists who had worked with him and supported him in tough times. The second thing he said, he started talking about a story about a guy named Rumpelstiltskin. How many of you know a story about Rumpelstiltskin? Yeah, older folks. Oh, and a couple of younger folks too. You know, Rumpelstiltskin goes to sleep, and the king of the colonies in what became the United States. At that point, there was just a King George, and there was a picture on the wall he saw in the town hall. And then Rumpelstiltskin falls asleep and sleeps for a long, long time. He wakes up 20 years later, and he gets up, and he goes back to town hall, and there's a picture of George Washington, and he's like, "We have a new king?" He's like, "No more kings." He's like, "What happened?" He was asleep for 20 years. So Dr. King tells that story. And during the Time for All Ages, our dearie Nick Walwork will tell a little more about what Dr. King was getting at, rather than being asleep. Dr. King ended his talk by asking us as Unitarian Universalists to stay maladjusted, stay uncomfortable. It's part of that energy that helps us understand one another and make a difference in the world. It's a good practice as Unitarian Universalists, especially since we're people who might be theists or atheists or pagans, or we don't know, and it really is not important. Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist. There's always discomfort that comes with that. But there's a comfort and a dream that lie beyond it. And that was a dream Dr. King lived for, and something we're going to think a lot about this morning. Good morning and welcome.
Welcome, new friends and old. Welcome to our shared journey of the Spirit. We are so grateful that you are with us this morning. I am Candace Donaldson, and I currently serve as the Assistant Treasurer on our Board of Trustees. And I am so pleased to welcome you all here today. We are a spiritual community that appreciates the importance of transitions. The transitions each generation makes from birth to childhood, then youth to adulthood, and finally to being an elder. This is why we cherish our children, youth, and elders, and learn to depend on each other as we grow and change. We know that the cooing babies here, and sometimes wailing ones, will someday be our teachers. They'll be our activists for justice, and they will care for us when we are hurt or healing. And they will be singing and speaking to raise our spirits. We cherish our elders who have built and nourished this spiritual home for us, and the mentoring we need from them, and the wisdom of their years. If children, youth, or their families have questions about our religious education program, Nick Walworth is our Director of Religious Education. Our new season of religious education has begun, and Nick is more than happy to speak to you and answer any questions you may have. In fact, today after service, you are encouraged to get a cup of coffee or whatever other beverage you would like, and Nick will be in the parlor, which is just outside the terrace room. He will be there to answer any questions you might have, hear your thoughts and suggestions, and if you're interested in volunteering as a teacher or in another capacity, Nick would be happy to discuss any and all of that with you. Our choir rehearses on Thursday evenings. You can find out more about that from our Director of Music, Michael Rosen, our AV Tech, Alex West, and our Congregational Administrator, Katie Julick, who is here most weekdays and is more than happy to receive your emails. The Reverend Joel Miller is our interim minister. We have many announcements in our order of service online and on paper. Today, after service at 11:45, the meditation group will be meeting on the 3rd floor. Our endowment committee will be available in the Great Hall after service today and following all Sunday services in January to answer your questions about the grant application process and to distribute the forms. Also, Tim Davis needs 5 volunteers today after service to help clean up the holiday decorations. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. And Alan actually has an update that the meditation at 11:45 will be discussing the ardors of meditation, and he will also be leading us in a metta practice, a loving kindness practice. Thanks, Alan. I invite you now to share in this morning's affirmation. I invite you to share in the speaking of it as I light our chalice. Love.
Spirit of this fellowship and service to this law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Please stand if you'd like. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
the younger folks to come up here, young in body and in spirit, heart, whatever you want. Come on up. We got to chat about some things. So, who remembers the story that Joel started talking about in the beginning of the service there? Anyone paying attention? Who was paying attention right at the very beginning? Anyone? Huh? All right, well, I'll tell you. Because Joel got his old-timey fables a little messed up, but it was Rip Van Winkle is the person we're talking about. You said Rumpelstiltskin. He's the one with the spit. That's fine. It's fine. It's fine. They're, old-timey fables about stuff. So, that's fine. Rip Van Winkle. And what did he do? What did Reverend Joel say he did? Fell asleep. Very good. You guys got to be as quick as these people out here. They're very interactive today. He fell asleep for how long, do you think? 20. Oh, there we go. Now we're getting it. Now we got it. All right. For 20 years he fell asleep, and he woke up in what ended up being a different country. So he fell asleep, and we were colonies of Britain, and then something happened, and then he woke up, and we were an independent country. What happened while he was sleeping? What kind of things do you think happened? Yep. Maybe the Revolutionary War is the absolute correct answer. What other things do you think he may have missed when he was sleeping for 20 years? Maybe not big historical events, but what other things do you think he might have missed? Anything else? His birthdays. All right. I like that one. Yeah. There we go. Any other things he might have missed? Maybe just haircuts. Right? The story goes he grew up with a big, long beard. His parents, yeah. What happened to them for 20 years?
The colonies becoming independent.
Yep, colonies becoming independent country, yep.
We missed Christmas.
You might have missed Christmas a couple times. And what do you miss at Christmas? That's actually a great segue, but hold it. So what do you miss at Christmas? He didn't get any presents for 20 years, right? Yeah, maybe when some history buffs over here. Very good. Yeah. So that was a favorite story of Dr. Martin Luther King. You guys talked about Dr. Martin Luther King in RE today. And why do you think that was a favorite story of Dr. King? Why do you think he told that stuff? What was he doing? What were we talking about upstairs? What was his deal? What was he in charge? What was he leading? Civil rights movement. Very good. And so why do you think that he would tell this old story about this guy who fell asleep? For us not to fall asleep, right? Because what's the most important part of that story? It's when he wakes up and he goes, what's going on? And Dr. Martin Luther King liked to tell that story because it was about waking up, right? And he told that stuff because at that time, he said, listen, this racism stuff had been happening for a long, long time. And a lot of people aren't just paying attention to it. And he said, you guys got to wake up. What other things do you think we fall asleep to? Do you guys think we miss things? You kids, you're new. You don't miss anything. You think grown-ups miss some things sometimes? Yeah? I'll tell you a story. I'm going to tell you one story about something that I fell asleep to and woke up to. Speaking of Christmas, we got a fun new present for Christmas this year. Alice, what did we get for Christmas this year as a family? All right, Charlotte. We got a Nintendo Switch. How many people have video games at their house? So I had video games when I was growing up, and I had an original Nintendo, and I had a Nintendo 64. And then we didn't have video games for a long time. For probably 20 years, I didn't play video games. Well, I played them, but we didn't have them in our house. And so we got them there, and I just wanted to play my original games, right? So I've been playing Zelda from 1995. And it's pretty cool, but I've fallen asleep to advances in technology, and so I've started playing Harry Potter with Charlotte and Alice, and it's so much cooler, those things, right? It's so much more visually exciting. Okay, that's fine. You don't need to air all the business. So, sometimes we fall asleep to fun things, but Dr. Martin Luther King was talking about falling asleep to important things. And what do we need to do when we fall asleep? What do we inevitably need to do when we fall asleep? Wake up. So, Dr. McKing used to tell those stories to wake up, not to probably video games, he probably didn't care about those. They didn't really have those back in the day. But to wake up to injustices. And so he used to run around saying, everyone wake up. So here's what I want you guys to do. Come here. Kids, come in here, come here. We're going to huddle up, come on. Huddle up. Shh. All right, everyone stand up on the stage. All right, ready? See? They don't know what we're doing. Ready? You ready? Ready, break. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh, come on, we got to try again. We'll do it one more time. All right, one more time. You got it? 1, 2, 3. Wake up! All right, very good. All right, so you all got to wake up. You guys got to wake up. We'll do it. All right, let's go sit down. All right. Very good. What?
Sometimes one of the most powerful ways we can wake up is by sharing our lives with one another. Sometimes it's in the telling of our own experience of living, our joys, our sorrows, our successes, our losses, that we come to understand ourselves. We become more awake to who we are as a people and as individuals. And so this spiritual practice of sharing. Paul Snellgrove, by way of Don Lynch, shares, "Thank you so much to so many of you who called, who texted, who emailed, who sent cards. Someone even sent a teddy bear. All with best wishes and thoughts on my surgery. It must have helped because I'm going home tomorrow." Yay, Paul. This is a joy from Donna Best. Zoe Best is helping promote a full-length film showing this coming Saturday at 11 o'clock here at the Fellowship. It celebrates the great Unitarian Universalist poet, peace activist, and leader Rabindranath Tagore. Free to the public and appropriate for all ages. You might know the Tagore poem, "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I woke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy." Donna carried that particular poem for decades before learning from a poster in room 100 that Tagore was a Unitarian. Donna also shares a milestone. Our dad and grandpa, Noel Meyer, died on December 28th. 3 days after his 82nd Christmas birthday. He was a member of the East Brunswick Unitarian Society and lived the life of a true bodhisattva. He was a simple one-cup, one-bowl man, but remarkably curious, joyful, and compassionate, extending himself to others with exceptional consistency. I'm sure, Donna writes, you would have loved him instantly. Thank you for joining us in celebrating Noel's life. I myself have a gratitude to share. Over the New Year's weekend, I was in Charleston, South Carolina, at an event called a Renaissance Weekend. And it felt so good to sit with people who ranged from left progressives politically to folks who are running for president on the Republican ticket. I had lunch with a guy named Asa Hutchinson, past governor of Arkansas. There is a dream of America and its democracy, and it was good to be with people who are very, very different over that weekend. but who share in that dream. And we have a special gratitude this morning.
Reverend Wells has been our affiliated community minister for the past 15 years here at the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. In that time, he has ministered to many, provided guidance and worship. His contributions will be remembered for years to come and are greatly appreciated. Reverend Wells has made the decision to step down as our affiliated minister, remaining a member as he has been for over 45 years. His continued involvement in our community is something we are all looking forward to. Please join me in thanking Reverend Wells for his care, his compassion, and all his efforts over the years.
I invite you to join me in a spirit of meditation or prayer as best fits your spiritual practice. Spirit of life, thank you for the sound of community. Our children, our babies, our elders, stray smartphones that ring in the middle of the service because the darn phone's not so darn smart. We're together to remind ourselves how easy it is to be afraid, how easy it is to just want to go with the flow, to drift through life half asleep. I was remembering with a friend of mine, Alicia. We were talking about this weekend. You were talking about being awake. Alicia remembers growing up in Oakland. She remembers how her mother would do her hair, or her aunt would help. They did her hair because they were in a business. The business was named Nappy or Not. And Alicia, who's black, remembers the simple sacred joy of having her hair pulled and tugged. The TV would hum. The neighbors would flow in and out, laughing, teasing, telling stories. Loving community. One day a woman came in with her 5-year-old son. Alicia was there. The woman's son had shoulder-length dreadlocks. She told Alicia's mother to take a pair of scissors and cut these locks, beautiful locks of love, off of the boy's head, one by one. And as each lock was cut, there was a news report on the TV humming in the shop that a teenager had been shot and killed. Lisi's mother took the boy's severed locks, put them in a bag for his mother. And the boy's mother said, the other kids tease him for looking too much like a girl. Lisa remembered this and said to me, what does it mean when a 14-year-old has a gun and kills and is killed? And she asked me, what does it mean when you are 5 and you have to defend your emerging self from the violence of words? She remembered because we were turning to the words of Dr. King, what he said to us as Unitarian Universalists. Do more than talk. Do a thing for freedom every day. One thing. One thing to readjust this world. To be maladjusted to the status quo. Refuse to conform. Or build a culture that allows a 5-year-old boy to grow his beautiful locks, so he never worries about defending his identity on a playground. Or maybe we can set free the captive prisoner. We can let justice roll down like waters. Let righteousness flow like a mighty stream. And we as a people, if we do this just one drop at a time in the stream, can make it a mighty river. And we will be that much closer to a promised land. For these beautiful faces, for this beautiful community, and for the power within it. Thank you. May it flourish and thrive, one little step at a time. Amen. So be it. Blessed be.
Please stand if you'd like. Bring me all of your dreams, you dreamers. Bring me all of your heart melodies, that I may wrap them in a blue cloud cloth, away from the too rough fingers of the world. And that is what poetry may do. Wrap up your dreams, protect and preserve them, and hold them until maybe they come true. Columbus dreamed of finding a new world. He found it. Edison dreamed of light, more light, and he made light. All the progress that human beings have made on this old earth of ours grew out of dreams. That is why it is wise, I should think, to hold fast to dreams. For if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field, frozen with snow.
Our offering today is split 50-50 with the Morristown Martin Luther King Observance Committee to benefit their annual program and their scholarship program. Ways to donate are in the order of service, including a service that is online if you're watching remotely. every year, usually on the Saturday of the weekend that we celebrate Dr. King's day of birth and his ministry, I like to watch the speech he gave at the Lincoln Memorial in 1963, August 28th of 1963, the I Have a Dream speech. Now, the thing about this speech is that the first part of the speech is actually a little bit boring. Dr. King was kind of talking about all the political and about the issues and what folks were asking for and kind of explaining the whys. And then Mahalia Jackson, and Dr. King loved Mahalia Jackson and her singing. She was sitting behind him. And he had an important relationship with Mahalia Jackson because she, her beautiful singing sometimes was what he just needed to hear to keep going, to be encouraged. He might even call her up and ask her to sing for him. We Shall Overcome, Precious Lord. Hymns and some music that were important to Dr. King. So at a moment when Dr. King had kind of stopped and the 250,000 people on the Mall in Washington were feeling a little restless, Mahalia Jackson said, "Tell them about the dream, Martin. Tell them about the dream." At which point, Dr. King started to speak, and one of the, I think it was Bayard Rustin, who was behind him, who organized the march, said, "Oh, we're going to church now." I have a dream. Having a dream is so important, which is why I wanted you to hear in Langston Hughes' own voice his poem about having a dream. Same poem that inspired Dr. King. How Dr. King had that kind of courage through all of the threats he went through. He was put in jail numerous times for no reason except that racists didn't like the kind of ministry he had, that his work for justice. How did he have that courage? William Sloane Coffin, who was a peace activist who worked with Dr. King, said once, "Nothing scares me like scared people. Because love seeks the truth, but fear seeks safety. Safety so frequently found in dogmatic certainty, in pitiless intolerance." And that's it exactly. We can't live by fear. Fear keeps us at a distance. It demands we sacrifice love and each other on the altar of despair. In fact, Dr. King, in his last speech in Memphis, the day before he was shot and killed, spoke of what he spoke because he knew it was coming. He said, "I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight, we as a people will get to the promised land. And I am happy tonight. I am not worried about anything. I am not fearing anyone." King sacrificed his fear. He sacrificed despair. Now, Dr. King, for us Unitarian Universalists, as I mentioned, we had a special relationship with Dr. King. He was a kindred soul, along with his partner and wife, Coretta Scott King. I say this not because I want to claim any of the hard work or the ministry that Dr. King did, but he considered Unitarian Universalism as a movement to work in. He realized what he was called to do, he would need to do that in a black movement. But his dissertation was in part a study of a Unitarian Universalist theologian, Henry Nelson Wyman. They remained Southern Baptists, but Dr. King's theological studies focused on great liberal theologians like our own Wyman. And Dr. King was introduced to Gandhi's influential, nonviolent theology and practice by the transforming speech of a great pacifist, A.J. Muste. And A.J. Muste's son, John Muste, was one of my beloved Sunday school teachers when I was growing up, a Unitarian Universalist. And A.J. Muste heard about Gandhi, but Gandhi heard from Tolstoy, and Tolstoy heard from a Universalist, Aidan Ballou, about how Jesus had talked also about nonviolence. Our roots and our influence in the work of justice and nonviolence comes in so many different ways. We are so deeply rooted in that work. So Dr. King talked about the dream, something he was never willing to surrender, even if it meant he might sacrifice everything. The thing about nonviolence is that, well, I don't know, I'm old enough. How many of you remember singing a song, Kumbaya? Yeah, okay. It got a little, maybe caricatured, you'd sing Kumbaya and it'd be all kind of sweet and everybody was happy and sweet. And in fact, it got to be that if somebody would use the phrase, oh gosh, here we are in a Kumbaya moment, it would actually mean, well, yeah, we're being nice, but we really don't mean it. Kind of a picture of nice people being all lovey-dovey from the 60s. It's in the hymnal, actually, the one we've had, but I tend not to sing it because I can't help but laughing a little bit at it. Truth is that when it was sung as a spiritual, it was not sung in that sort of light, groovy, hippie way. It was sung with tears and out of a lot of pain because it was a dream. It was something that people were longing for. Peace, joy, justice, and the absence of fear. When King was living those moments of Kumbaya, they were dangerous moments. To be in a protest was to do something dangerous in those times. So, toward the end of his ministry, Dr. King did something that was even more dangerous. He started talking with people that he hadn't been willing to talk with before. First, he started talking with Malcolm X. How might he, Malcolm X, and Dr. King work together and bring their people together as allies? And he started talking with other religious leaders, especially religious leaders in rural congregations, serving mostly white folks. And they would begin talking about how might they become allies and work together. Because Dr. King in his last years was working on a program of economic justice. And his argument was that the very economic struggles that black people were facing were the same economic struggles that rural white folks were facing. And if they would unify together, they could work together to create a system of economic justice that would benefit them together and bring them together as a people. In fact, it wasn't too long after that that Dr. King was assassinated. I think there's a connection personally, though I couldn't prove it. It was dangerous to be doing this work in those times. There was a young man, Jimmy Lee Jackson, who had committed a crime. A state trooper had come into a restaurant and was beating his mother, and Jimmy Lee Jackson tackled the trooper to keep the trooper from injuring his mom. His punishment was on the spot, no trial. He was shot and clubbed over the head until almost dead. The local hospital wouldn't take him, so they had to take him to a distant hospital in Selma. He told his story to reporters and then died. After the memorial service for Jimmy Lee Jackson, 100 Unitarian Universalist ministers traveled to join Dr. King and march with him and support him. And just 2 weeks after Jimmy Lee Jackson was buried, those racist terrorists murdered a Unitarian Universalist minister, James Reeb. And I tell you that particular story because one of your ministers, Clark Olson, was with James Reeb when he was attacked and received wounds that would lead to his dying. So even within your history, there's this deep connection to the work that Dr. King was doing. Clark Olson, like Dr. King, like James Reeb, like A.J. Musty, like William Sloane Coffin, believed in nonviolence and were seeking to create all kinds of alliances. Alliances we would like to continue to create today, which was why I was so privileged to go as your minister to this Renaissance weekend that I mentioned. Have conversations with a wide range of people who have a dream of democracy and a dream of peace. I got to have lunch with a Republican presidential candidate. I'd never vote for him. I told him that. He laughed. But it was so good to be together. Those who want us to live by fear will try to divide us by somehow having us afraid of one another. Have us afraid because we look different or think different or love differently. We had a drag story hour here in this room earlier last year, spring, and there was a group of protesters. And funny thing about sidewalks in New Jersey, if you have a sidewalk, you can walk on it, but if there's no sidewalk, you can't be on the grass, technically. So, because we have no sidewalks around the fellowship, the protesters couldn't come and stand on their property. They had to be about half a mile down the road on a sidewalk. It was a pretty funny moment. The mothers of liberty, the mothers of conservative white liberty, I don't know exactly what they are, but if Dr. King were here to talk to us today, he would recall how Unitarian Universalists had a religious faith that helped give others the courage to protest peacefully. And he would tell us to keep doing this work. What you're doing is important. It saves lives, maybe not directly, although I can tell you, as a congregation, you do save lives personally and directly. But he would tell us that Southern Baptists and Unitarian Universalists and Jews and Muslims, we all need each other, just as evangelicals and atheists need us, and we need them all together too. Dr. King was asking us to live by our dream, the dreams that we create together. So important that we do this work as Unitarian Universalists because of our diversity, because of our great differences. It's important, the spiritual work we're doing. And Dr. King saw it 60 years ago. We hope someday to create a religious way of being that can transcend tremendous differences and unite us in a shared vision, a shared dream of spiritual practice of love and togetherness that thrives because of our differences, not in spite of them. Mahalia Jackson said, "Martin, tell them about the dream. Tell them about the dream, Martin." And he said, "Let freedom ring." And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up the day when all of God's children, black and white, Jew and Gentile, Protestant and Catholic, and I'm sure he would add today even Muslim and atheist, we will all join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last." Let's sing together, congregation. We shall overcome. Hold fast to the dream. And let our love always carry us, even in the most difficult moments. Let us shape our instincts, transform our souls so that we celebrate the diversity of life by instinct. So by instinct, we reject lies. So by instinct, we tame our fear with courage and open hearts. So that we are compelled to live life truly by extending our hands to one another. So the culture of our very souls overcomes all that drives us apart and has us living in fear. We shall, in our faithful commitment as community, we shall overcome, and we are truly free. And say it together now with me, my people. Amen. Amen. Go in peace, be in peace.